Good day, everyone. My name is Mira Kalapan Angolot, and I'm from BS Psychology 3B. So for today, I shall be discussing to you the research methods in psychopathology. So we all know for a fact that psychology is a branch of science, and it is known to be as a scientific study of human behavior and mental processes. And when we say scientific study, it entails processes which are systematic and organized. And so, why is there a need for a study to be organized and systematic? Well, a study should be organized and systematic in order for researchers or in order for us to be able to arrive at a valid and reliable conclusion. And due to the fact that we base our systematic pursuit of knowledge through observations or through empirical observations, we use a theory or theories to help us further explain what we have observed or to further explain a particular phenomenon. So when we say theory, it is a set of statements or propositions that would help us possibly shed light to what we have observed. So for instance, there is a teenager in your community who is addicted to drugs, to alcohol, to cigarettes, and is also a member of a gang. So that's your observation. And so you come up with a theory that the reason why that teenager become addicted to those things is because his parents weren't there when he was growing up and he was not guided by them properly. So that's your theory. And also, it is important for us to instill into our minds that a characteristic of a good theory is that it should be falsifiable. When we say falsifiable, it has a room for disconfirmation, meaning your theory is a thought-provoking one, and people will be interested to the point wherein they would explore other factors and explore other reasons that will somehow invalidate your own theory and will later on explain what have been observed or the particular phenomenon. And moreover, another part of scientific method is the hypothesis. So we are already familiar with what hypothesis is. So this is an educated guess, and this is our belief or specific predictions that about what will occur if our theory is correct. So now we move on to the research methods in psychopathology. So in study guide 4, there are 3 research methods in psychopathology that are being highlighted, and these are the case study, the correlational method, and the experiment method. And the first one that we shall be discussing today is a case study. So case study, this is the collection of detailed biographical information. So when we say detailed biographical information, these are the data, the facts which are associated or which are related to a person's personal life. And case studies can be done through in-depth interviews on a particular person or a particular group of people. And the data or the biographical information in general that we can get from case studies include family history. So this pertains to your mother, to your father, to your birth order, to the current status of your family, or anything that is related to your family is included in the case study. Also, this includes medical status or your health condition. The third one is educational background. Fourth one is the information about peer and romantic relationships. So in this, the data on how you deal with your peers, with your friends, with your affiliated groups, and even your relationship with your significant other, if ever you have. Next one is the personality and adjustment issues. If you have personality and adjustment issues. And last one is the current difficulties and prior experiences in the therapy. So for instance, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling distressed, if you have if you have a lot of things going on in your mind. So those things are also included in the case study. So for its evaluation, case studies are, of course, an excellent source of hypothesis. Why is this so? It is because in case study, we are being given with a lot of data, personal data to be exact. And when we are given with personal data, we can come up with educated guesses with our own opinions from those personal data that we have gathered. And also, this can provide information about novel cases or procedures, and may be biased by observers' theoretical viewpoint, because human as we are, we have different viewpoints. We have different perceptions on the things, or on the data that we hear, on the data that we see, on the data that are given to us. So those are the evaluations of the case study. And now we move on to the second research method that is being included in study guide number 4, which is the correlation or the correlational method. So this is the study of the relationship between two or more variables measured as they exist in nature. So in this research method, it is not concerned with causality. Rather, it is more concerned with the relationship of the variables, whether variable x and variable y go together. And the variables in correlational methods are not being manipulated, unlike the variables in the experiment. And also, in measuring the variables in correlational methods, we can use survey questionnaires such as standardized questionnaires, researcher-made questionnaires, and modified standardized questionnaires. And for its evaluation, it is used widely because we often cannot manipulate risk variables or diagnosis in psychopathology research. And also, behavioral genetic studies often use the correlational method to study the heritability of different psychological disorders. So, example of correlational studies are the relationship between hours of sleep and a person's mood, or it could be the relationship between your civil status and your level of life satisfaction. So those are examples of correlational studies. So in measuring correlation or correlational methods, we must consider 3 things, and these are the correlation coefficient, the strength, and the direction. So in correlation coefficient, this varies from positive 1.0 to negative 1, from negative 1.0 to positive 1.0. And of course, the strength, the higher the absolute value, the stronger the relationship is. So when we say absolute value, this is the coefficient which describes the direction or the strength of the relationship between 2 variables or 3 variables. So for example, if we have 75 as our absolute value, then we can say, or we can conclude, that the relationship is stronger because 75 is much higher or much bigger than 65. And also the direction. So if the direction is positive, higher scores on var x are associated with the higher scores on var y. While if the direction is negative, higher scores on var x are associated with the lower scores on variable y. Also, we have problems of causality because, again, correlation does not imply causality because causality is more associated with experiment. And it is also not true that variable x may cause variable y and variable y may cause variable x. And sometimes we also have the third variable, which is the variable z. And moreover, there are also studies which utilize correlational methods, and these are longitudinal and cross-sectional. So in longitudinal, this studies participants over time. So in longitudinal studies, it is being done in a longer period of time. and this examines whether causes are present before the disorder develops. And due to the fact that it is being conducted in a longer period of time, then we can say that it is more costly because we have to monitor, because we still have to monitor our respondents, and in monitoring and in doing that we have to spend money, we have to spend some resources. However, there is a certain method which addresses the fact that it is costly, and this is the high risk method, wherein in this method we only include those who are at greatest likelihood of developing a disorder. So this reduces the cost of longitudinal research. And also cross-sectional. This is the study which is commonly used among people, among researchers, unlike longitudinal. And this, the causes and effects are measured at the same time. And the data that are being gathered here can be gathered from a certain population, whether from a population of students, teachers, administrators, teenagers, senior citizens, adults, so like that. So that's a cross-sectional design. And also we also have epidemiological research. So this is the study of the distribution of disorders in a population and possible correlates. So we have different disorders. We have many disorders. We have anxiety disorders, depression, panic disorders, eating disorders, bipolar disorders, so like that. So for example, in eating disorders, we have anorexia nervosa. We also have bulimia nervosa. In anorexia nervosa, these are the people which they think that they're overweight. Well, when in reality, they are closely to being underweight. So they tend not to eat because they think that they are overweight. They have bigger size and body shape. While in bulimia nervosa, it is the opposite of anorexia nervosa, wherein people would eat large portions of food. So, and also there are three features of a disorder. So we have here the prevalence, the incidence, and risk factors. So we are already familiar with what prevalence is. So this is the percentage, or this is the number of people having the particular disorder. And the risk factors, so this risk factors are the determinant, or the things which may increase the likelihood of having that disorder. So for example, in eating disorders, if someone has anorexia nervosa, she thinks that she is already overweight, when in reality she is closely to being underweight. It is because maybe that person is fan of watching beauty pageants, fan of watching modeling competitions, and whenever she see or watch those models walking on the stages with having those petite bodies, then she would say that I would like to have that kind of body too. So as a response to that, she would not eat because she also wants to have the body of a model. So she won't eat because she also wants to become petite when in reality she was already petite. So the last research method that I shall be discussing to you today is the experiment. So experiment provides information about causal relationships, and this involves independent variable. So independent variable, this is the variable that which we manipulate. And also we have random assignment. So in doing experiments, we try to do away with many sampling techniques that we are acquainted of. Rather, we randomly pick our participants or our respondents and place them or put them in the specific groups which we want them to be in. Also, we have dependent variable, of course. And furthermore, experiments can evaluate treatment effectiveness. When producing vaccines and medicines, experiments should be done in order for the reliability, validity, and effectivity of those medicines and vaccines to be tested. So in experiments, we have basic features of experimental design. So the first one is, of course, the investigator manipulates an independent variable. Second one, participants are assigned to the conditions by random assignment. Third one, researcher measures a dependent variable that is expected to vary conditions of the independent variable. We also have the experimental effects. So experimental effect, these are the different effects that happen to the different groups which you created because of the manipulations you made on that independent variable. And also we have internal validity. So this is the extent to which experimental effect is due to the independent variable. So most experiments have internal validity because all of the independent variables are being manipulated. And also we have control groups. So these are the participants who do not receive treatment. Also we have placebo, or this is the change or the benefit or improvement that happened to the respondents after the administration of the experiment. And also we have external validity. So this is the extent to which results generalize beyond the study. However, not all experiments have this external validity because most of the experiments are being done inside the lab. And when the experiments are being done outside the lab, results may vary because the outside environment has extraneous variables which the lab do not have. And also, we have the analog experiment. So analog experiment, these are experiments not always possible in psychopathology because of ethical or practical constraints. So instead of using humans, researchers try to use animal, or it is also included in this the animal research. Also we also have here the single subject experimental research. So in this research, it examines how individual participants respond to changes in the independent variable. So the reversal design or the reversal technique is not always possible because initial state is not or may not be recoverable. Because in dancing, for instance, our energy or performances differ from time to time. And lastly, the term by which we use in integrating findings from multiple studies or identifying relevant studies is called meta-analysis. So that would be all. I hope you have learned something from my report, and thank you.